did not build Mud from scratch, okay? I help build Mud, all right? I'm not the major contributor. I just want to clear that up. I don't want to, steal credit from anybody. But I'm here today to talk about making an on-chain game without sacrifices. And what I mean by that is I feel like whenever I talk to game designers or, those of us that call ourselves game designers when making on-chain games in autonomous worlds, we immediately put ourselves into boxes before we even start engineering. And I know why, because those engineering challenges feel impossible. But I'm going to talk about all the things that we did in Sky Strife that we treated as non-negotiable principles. And a lot of these principles made our lives really difficult, honestly, and they consumed a lot of engineering hours, but in the end, they were for a purpose, and they've improved the entire experience of our game, or I think so at least. You just heard this. Yep, I've been making on-chain games for a while. I think about them a lot, and I do it on the weekends as well. I promise. Look at my GitHub. All right. So this is what Sky Strife looks like right now. This is real gameplay footage. It is a 4-player. The main game mode is a 4-player free-for-all on-chain RTS game, similar to Age of Empires, Command and Conquer, StarCraft. And we've really focused on people being able to jump into the game, being very accessible, low time commitment. A match maybe takes 15 minutes max, and you should have fun along the way. And a very brief history is the first commit, I looked this up, was on July 6th, 2022. I was sitting next to Alvarius when it happened, and we used the first pre-release version of Mud. And the first playtest was 2 weeks later. We had a 16-person playtest, and already we threw out a bunch of our game design decisions during that first playtest. And once again, thank you to the Mud team for making a great game engine. We were able to validate our ideas very, very quickly. So let's jump into the core principles. These really revolved around a lot of in-person conversations we had in, I believe it was in Williamsburg, New York, during this summer. And the most important one being fun first. I'm a big gamer in my free time. I've been a gamer my entire life. I wanted to enjoy this game personally. Like, if I did not want to play the game in my own free time, I was going to be very, very depressed. And honestly, there were times during the development process where I had to have real conversations with people like, I think this game sucks. Why do I think that way? Can we validate it? Can we get other people to tell us they think that way as well? Okay, second one is human-centered. I think this one's a little controversial, and I'm going to explain a bit here. I don't mean we're taking actions against bots. I don't mean we're taking actions against scripting. All I mean is that we want human beings to have the best time in our game, and we always want them to be competitive. We always want them to be able to have fun. Let's be real. If you entered a StarCraft or a Sky Strife match, and the other 3 players were bots, and you got smashed, you would not be having fun, right? So what does it take to make a game where humans can always compete with bots with unlimited agility, unlimited knowledge, etc.? And then, okay, maximally, we were all throwing around composability. Okay, we drew another distinction on composability. I can go into this later, but you just heard enough about what composability means from the other speakers. And of course, okay, we wanted this on-chain game, this world, to be persistent. The goal, the way I envision it is Sky Strife should be like a ship that we build, we push it off into the ocean without a driver, and it just lives forever without control. That is what I'm going with. So let's go into the game design decisions that loop back to those principles and created a lot of pain for us. First one being real-time PvP with instantaneous feedback. This is compared to something like Dark Forest, where a voyage, movement from planet to planet, by the end of the round could take you 6 hours. You make a voyage, you go eat lunch, you go hang out with your dog, you come back, only then can you see the result of your action. I enjoyed it. I don't think that's very accessible for people. It's mainly for people with way too much free time. So I wanted, from the beginning, real-time PvP. You should be able to get in, compete against people, and get out very quickly. We also decided on having session-based matches with human-made maps. Now, this is also in comparison to Dark Forest. I'm going to talk about Dark Forest a lot because that's most of where my on-chain game ideas are. I'm sorry if you haven't played it before. But yeah, session-based matches with human-made maps, this is a very traditional gaming mindset on making a game, right? Like, if you load up an Age of Empires match, that match is going to last half an hour. There's a map that some game designer made, and then it's going to conclude at the end, and then nothing is going to carry over from that match into your next match. And third, persistent economic layer linking all the matches. So if these matches are little mini universes that collapse after 15 minutes, we need something to make players care about linking those matches together other than just getting better at the game and having fun. So let's go into the first principle, why real-time PvP? Well, the principles that it linked into were human-centered and fun first. And really what I mean by fun in this regard is that visceral feeling of I get into a match, there are 3 other humans in this match who are trying to kill me, and if I outwit them and I'm the best, I win. That to me, and that's why I play games. I think that's why a lot of people play games. We wanted to really preserve that feeling. So we, from the beginning, really talked about latency and response time on the client from day one. And like, I have the privilege of working at Lattice, where we are simultaneously making this game, making the engine, and now I can finally talk about it, making an L2 blockchain, where I could complain about latency and then complain to specific people at different layers of the stack and be like, make this better. And so we aggressively track the statistics of latency. And this is just an illustration of, and this is like so glossed over. There's so much more that goes into it. Like worst case scenario, which is really what you need to care about when you talk about latency, is over 2 seconds of response time from a user action being taken to seeing the results on their screen. Personally, I mean, it's good. Oh my God, it could be so much better. I want this to be 100 milliseconds. And once again, we worked across the stack to improve this. One thing I want to point out is like, when I first started making on-chain games, this gas estimate portion, everyone just kind of takes for granted, like, oh, I need to go ask the RPC how much this is going to cost in gas. No, you don't. You could just send it. You could just hard code it. And if you know how much it's going to cost and you're correct every time, you cut that latency out. So it's like all these little tweaks we could make to our network stack where like, okay, yeah, we're hard coding gas a lot of the time. That really improved the player experience in Sky Strife. We also developed a turn timer that evaluates in real time during a Sky Strife match. But Sky Strife is not a turn-based strategy game. What I mean by this, the turn timer is basically chunking a player's actions into 15-second increments. Because the worst case scenario is you do not uncap, or you don't cap player actions. Someone is able to act with their unit as many times as they want during a block, and you could shove, I don't know, 100 movements into one block, and your unit is zooming all over the map, killing everything, and then the person on the other side of the screen is like, the human is like, what happened? The game would only be for bots that could shove as many transactions as possible into a block. So what we did is we chunked real time into 15-second increments, and each unit can only move once during that 15 seconds. Essentially what we did is, even if a bot is able to act before you, it's essentially the same benefit as playing white in chess. Yes, it is a benefit, but it's a small benefit. It doesn't mean you're going to lose every single interaction. Okay, we also did the session-based matches. I think this is human-centered, really just to respect people's time. I don't know if anyone played the last round of Dark Forest, but I did not sleep for like 5 days. We were just up all night programming. You were watching your civilization. Even when you weren't at your computer, you were terrified that when you got back, everything you'd built would be gone. Once again, it's fun for a certain type of person. I enjoyed it, but I don't want to inflict that on anyone else. So, yes. So, the one Sky Strife world, which in technical terms is one mud world, is composed of many matches. And creating a match is a public function. Anyone can do it. Any player can do it. But it does not involve deploying any contracts. It merely like creates a little segment of storage in the overall Sky Strife world. So it is a very lean procedure. It doesn't cost a lot for the user. And this forced us to improve the mud stack in a variety of ways, the main one being the indexer. The indexer now has intelligence around, oh, this is a segment of match 3. I can just send that to a client that cares only about match 3 right now. And this is something that we worked on a lot over the past few months. And it's another great benefit of working closely with the MUD team. And now this is a part of generic MUD. Anyone who builds on MUD can have access to this. There's a way to define segments of storage in your contracts, and the indexer automatically knows about it. So very excited to see if other people, start building on this session-based model. And then there's human-made maps. Once again, obviously human-centered. Human-made maps have more personality. They have landmarks. They have choke points. They can take into account balance. Perlin noise does not necessarily have all of these things built into it. And I know that storing things on chain is incredibly expensive. That's why everyone told us we were crazy to do this, but there were ways around it. So here's the comparison of something made with Perlin noise like OP Craft, which is beautiful, yes, but if you were fighting battles in OP Craft, someone might have a huge advantage if they spawn on a hill and you spawn in a valley. Whereas in Sky Strife, each one of these rocks, each piece of grass, each tree here is hand placed by usually my brother, who is the game designer on Sky Strife. What this immediately opened up was the way we make maps can actually be the way that users make maps. So technically, there's nothing stopping anyone from uploading their own maps in Sky Strife. It is a permissioned process right now to make it an official map that yields rewards in the economic layer. But we have very light tooling that is basically just a tile editor where you define a map file, and that is uploaded on chain. Now, that first initial upload, yes, is very, very expensive. On Redstone, what I mean by very expensive is probably like 65 cents. I hope that someone will take that hit to upload a brand new map to Sky Strife. But we've developed a way so that each match doesn't need to recreate this map from scratch. So part of architecting our contracts is that maps are deployed once, they're stored in storage once, and the things that do not change about the map, like let's say that rock over there, that tree, all the grass, the islands themselves, that is referenced in global storage in the Sky Strife world. Every match that is played on this map references those same things because they don't change. I mean, this is a game design limitation. You can't have a fireball that then destroys terrain on the island. We took that hit so that people wouldn't have to pay a massive amount of gas every time they wanted to play a match. However, there are things that do change during the course of a match, like gold mines, your spawn point, and auxiliary settlements that are found on the map. These things are things that players can capture. Their health is affected, their strength is affected. So we copy only those specific things over into the individual match. And limiting that copying phase only to these things that change was enough to make gas costs very, very reasonable. Matches are both the faucets and sinks of the Sky Strife world. It costs resources to make a match, and you gain resources by winning that match. You'll have to play to find out what that means and how impactful that is. But basically, the only thing we have control over as the rulers of Sky Strife for now is the rate at which this is released into the economy. So there are resources released into the economy, but it cannot exceed a certain rate, and that is based on how many matches happen in a given week. Oh my God, I want to talk about all this. All right. I didn't get to talk about composability, but this will be a good plug for Season 0. So we've been playtesting a lot, like every week for the last year and a half. But Season 0 will be the first time on our infrastructure, a season that lasts 3 weeks. We encourage everyone to build on top of Sky Strife and really, really build up your resources and build amazing things with them. And we have a workshop today in one of these one of these rooms where we are going to build a live integration on top of Sky Strife, on top of an existing Sky Strife world, and you can put it into practice immediately. It's 4 p.m. You're right. Yes, at 3 p.m., there's a more generic MUD workshop. If you really want to know the full stack, go to the generic MUD one, get the basics down, then come to the Sky Strife one, build something very specific. Okay, and then we're having a Sky Strife tournament today from 5 to 8 p.m. at that, the gaming center over there in the hallway. All right, I am Kooshaba. Thank you very much. And oh yes, my question for everyone is, because I'm a big traditional gamer as well, what will it take to poach my friend who only plays Call of Duty to play on-chain games?